G'day guys, and welcome back to Stitch Up and episode 4 of our Planet Coaster series, Thames Valley Studios. That's right, we're 4 episodes in and we are off and running. So in this episode we're going to be doing quite a few different things. This is a little bit of a bridging episode actually. So in this one we start off by looking for a nice blueprint to put, well, kind of a blueprint to put in the main plaza, the entrance plaza. So you've showed your ticket, you've come through, you've parked your car, you've come through, and then basically, yeah, we want a bit of a show building. Now, my theory here on using blueprints, because I don't want to create a park with blueprints, and I don't want full 100% blueprints in my park. I think that is just not the way forward for a park that we're creating on YouTube. And so what I want to show you here is it is possible to grab a blueprint. Some of the blueprints that come with the actual game, some of the vanilla blueprints, they're a little bit incomplete or boring. This one's not one of the ones that is boring. It's certainly a fantastic building. But what I wanted to create here is grab the initial blueprint and then strip it out and basically take out some of the decorations and change it up and use it as a bit of a base. Now, if you're not a super confident builder, this is a really good way to learn how to build buildings from scratch. And by using a blueprint and then editing it, it's actually, yeah, it's just a really good way of, you've got a little bit of a start there. You can take things out, you can swap things out. In this case, this is a very French classical looking building with a somewhat Arabian roof line to it. So I wanted to just take out some of the doors. I didn't want it looking so chateau-y. I wanted it looking a little less, well, still quite glam, but I want a nice little fence around it. Basically, as you walk into the park, this is where people will be able to stop and take their photos and get a lovely photo in front of this building. It could be an administration building of some point, but it's just one of those focal points where you want something quite flashy. Now, it's also creating a block. As you walk into the entrance plaza, you can't see across to the so-called Isle of Dogs section of the park. And you can see kind of through the buildings, through the gap here in between the left-hand side of this building as you're looking over and the entrance building. In between that, you can kind of see there's a little bit of area. We will put a bit of garden in, but I want people to be able to sort of get little peeks of what they think they can see behind. Someone who's visiting Thames Valley Studios for the very first time should be able to, it's basically should be able to see little bits, see little weenies popping up and things like that. And, so I do want people to get that sort of idea of something's behind there, and this is what we'll get into a little bit later in the episode too, because as you would have seen from the thumbprint, we're going to create the sound stages, or some of the sound stages, and we'll talk about that. I have I made my own blueprint for that one, and we'll talk about how we're going to use those guys. And in fact, they'll be used in a particular ride, but we'll have a good talk about that. Now, it's just putting down a bit of a base here, and trying to find the right part for the base. So I'm just sliding the blueprint out, putting it back in, and looking at what sort of paved area could go in here. I'm trying to save if you're on part count a little bit, be a little conservative, not overly ridiculous. I think we'll be fine. We want to create a fairly big park, but I don't want it to tank. So, underneath the actual blueprint where you will never see, we don't need to have the basement. We can just have soil under there. We don't need to have a foundation. So then I'm putting in this nice little low fencing. Now, I like the idea of the fencing. I like the idea that the building's sitting down at the ground level and that the fencing is also kind of there, but it's only kind of waist height. You could jump it if you wanted to get kicked out of the park because there's security around the parks. And of course, that means that, we can have little things like this. And it doesn't obstruct people's photos and things. So I think that kind of just works. Using this nice railing here, just putting it all around different parts of the park. And of course, this sort of stuff that we will, we will adapt and we will use in different parts of the park as well. And I'm just actually trying to create, trying to cover up where this one goes inside the entrance building there. I think I end up putting in some concrete buffering at the bottom and basically just changing that side of the building. I think it kind of works. Again, not symmetrical, trying to get away from symmetricality. The planting, I want the gardens to be lush. I want this to be as though it's built in Planet Zoo. Beautiful, beautiful lush gardens in Planet Zoo that you can build. Well, Planet Coaster, we want it to be kind of similar. The other interesting thing here is the placement of this building, and then you'll see in the episode we also put down a flat ride, and we start to put down those aforementioned sound stages. But the flat ride in this particular administrative building, these two here actually, I'm trying to work out exactly, because we have the curve of the river, and I was just trying to think, well, I don't want the river to be, I want it to look a bit natural and built on, and a real sort of built environment. So I had this building jutting out into it, and then I thought, well, that's great, I'll just create like a pier. Now I believe that when we get to where it's relatively complete, we probably won't see the natural edge of the river. I think that'll all be covered in. As you would go down the Thames at the moment, you would never see where the natural part of the river is. There's just no, I mean, you don't even get swampland that approaches the Thames. It's all built up. It's all got these big kind of these big kind of sea walls, retaining walls, and everything is built there because everything behind it has to be supported, because the Thames is such a tidal force. It's such a big tidal river. So of course this part here, I like that it juts out. I think that's kind of good. You know, it also allows us, because it juts out and goes straight down at a 90-degree angle straight into the water, it allows us to moor some boats next to it if we want to. And this is where we'll start to talk about what will happen in the sound stages, because there's a nautical theme coming in the soundstage, and it's going to be my next project, probably my next project that I want to work on. Just before we move on, just very quickly, let's just quickly talk about what else is happening on Stitch Up. My subscriptions have gone through the roof. We're almost at 300 subscribers, and you know, a couple of months ago I was at 90 or something. So yeah, it's really good. So if you're not already one of excuse me, one of those subscribers, please hit that subscribe button as you're watching this video. Do it now if you want. That would be really cool. Now yeah, so the other things we're playing on Stitch Up is of course Voxel Tycoon, and we are playing the, it's just had its Steam release. Voxel Tycoon is a transport tycoon game, obviously built in the voxel style, very popular. It's had a Steam early access release. It's not at point 1.0 yet. It's at point sort of 8.5, and it's yeah, it's a great game that's been in development for a couple of years, that we've been playing on Stitch Up for quite a while. So please go and check out those series if you want to. Now, in the middle of the entrance plaza, I actually decided to put, I did want a focal point, so I've put in a water tower. Now, it's a bit of a placeholder, I think, this water tower. I like the idea of water towers to sit in parks. This park is, look, this park might have been here for quite a few years, and this could be an original water tower, but certainly wouldn't have been in this spot. It's been moved to here to be preserved. Now, I'm actually, this is a placeholder, because what I might do in the future is I might actually swap it out for something else that sits within the lore of the particular Thames Valley Studios. So I'm looking at, there'll be some space rockets. This might be replaced with a space rocket. There might be a plane or a boat or something suspended and sitting up quite high. But basically, and we're talking movie props. We're talking things that would have appeared in movies, or excuse me, or it has been recreated in movies. So I'm putting down some planting at the moment, trying to keep the planting a little bit sort of like, so that we can yeah, just kind of not too, I'm trying to keep it a little bit sort of rustic, the planting, not too pristine. You know, see in here there's 60 or 70 plants in this tiny little section, and that's kind of what I want to do, especially for such a sort of scenic area. I just want it to be a big bunch of plants, and yeah, that could be kind of cool. The only thing I didn't put in there was any, I didn't really put any garden bed in, any hard bedding, but we'll at least I just want this plaza area to be relatively finished, and we'll go back and add things if we need to and adjust things as we go. There's little things in that section, all the completed car park and things like that. I'm just editing as I go. We won't be really featuring them in episodes so much. Because they're done, and we need to, they're sort of at their 90%, they're ready for publishing, and they're ready to be kind of moved on. Now, the flat ride. So we start putting in this lovely flat ride here. It's just one of those big, I can't remember the name of this actually, it's one of these big circle bits that goes around, just one of those wheels. And of course I start to theme it up, and I get it really kind of proper themed here, and we start putting lots of wood around it. And then I actually move the ride as well, so you'll start to see me theme up this with a little bit of the very sort of wood. It's got a slight eastern, far east kind of Chinese kind of mantra to it, with a little bit of these red kind of lanternish looking lamps, and we'll get to that, and you'll see all that shortly. Just while this ride's going in, and you can see me tinkering around with the colours and how it all goes. And before we start theming it up, let's talk about coasters, because this is Planet Coaster, and I want a very big coaster to start wrapping its way around this area. So I'm thinking of some big dark coaster. I was going to create an indoor ride. I've got a ride, a idea to make an aliens ride, and this is because I actually want to do a separate coaster outside of this series completely and publish it on YouTube, and I want it to be an aliens coaster. And there are a couple of alien coasters done at the moment in that are out there on YouTube, and I'm blown away by them, and I want to start to integrate some of those. Not integrate those, but I want to start to create my own versions of those. So I'm thinking of creating a smaller kind of testing the waters version of an alien coaster, but that will be a dark ride. I actually want to grab or want to create an outdoor coaster here at some point. So we'll be putting in, I'm thinking it's going to be one of these 4-dimensional coasters, one of the ones where it's got the arms out the back. Maybe you've got like 3 rows, the arms either side, and that the guests sit in something that I think they're like flying coasters, but the guests sort of sit in them. And they kind of hang in them, and they almost fly forwards or backwards. There is one of them at Alton Towers. There's definitely a couple of them at big parks around the world, and they're quite spectacular. Now I'm thinking of a big black menacing coaster with big black pylons. So I'll have to have an idea of what we want this themed about. If you have any ideas on how you'd like me to theme these guys up, could you leave those in the comments, and I'll read and reply to all my comments as I do. But yeah, if we could have a bit of a think about that, if you have any particular themes. Otherwise I'll come up with something. Try and come up with a little backstory if you can as well, and we'll give you a shout out in the next episode, and where we'll be creating that coaster. Okay, you see me there try and put some flags on this flat ride, and then abandoning that very quickly. So I'm starting to move some of the paths around, and of course our Brutalist Hotel is there, and it's 95% complete. But we just get some of the paths in, and then we create a pedestrian link, a non-usable pedestrian link, a little bit later as well. So you'll see that to sort of be finalized. You can actually see here with the flat ride sitting out over the water as well. So the flat ride sitting out over the kind of Arabian building is sitting out over as well. And yeah, I sort of like that. I like that when you go to the Isle of Dogs section of the park, you'll look back across, and this will be kind of like looking back at the other side of the Thames and the buildings that sit over there. And of course these won't be in the natural flow of the river. These will be all sort of a little bit higgledy-piggledy, I guess is the official term. Okay, around about the long way of deleting a whole lot of paths here. I'm trying to work out exactly what I want to do with these paths, and in the end we do find a reasonably elegant solution for the paths. So yeah, so let's talk the terror. So I'm going to, I don't know if you guys have seen, there was a show, I think it was on the BBC, maybe made for the BBC, but there was a show about Franklin's lost expedition called The Terror. It was, you know, the lost expedition to the Northwest Passage. There were two ships, the Erebus and the Terror, and both ships were lost. All the men were lost, and it was, you know, it was an awful tale of loss that happened historically. And of course, those ships only got rediscovered a couple of years ago in the Canadian Arctic. Yeah, so in light of watching that series, and of course I wasn't a huge fan of that series because it's all monsters, and I you know, there's enough in this wonderful tale about these ships that got lost and the tale of exploration. So I want to tell an alternative version of that inside a ride in this park, and I want that to be, you know, that's going to tie in with this whole studios, because it'll be that this studios has the rights to that, and they want to do that. So there will be a like a rescue mission that the guests will join, and they will basically go looking for Franklin's lost expedition, and we'll be able to show what they found out of Franklin's lost expedition. And so I'm going to add that particular sort of ride and theme into the sound stages, and I think it'll end up quite nice, because as we get towards the end of this episode, you'll see where the sound stages get created and how close they are to the river. And of course I'm constantly moving these. I go in to my game and I move these sound stages. I can guarantee you one thing: they probably won't be where they are in this exactly where they are in this particular video and in this particular episode, but it's in the same vicinity, and we'll get to that in just a sec. Oh, just here's me struggling with the path system in Planet Coaster. Bless the path system in Planet Coaster. Trying to find a little gap between the administrative building and the newly created kind of snaking path. But yeah, so back to the Terror. I don't know if I'll call it the Terror. I may, but it's all going to be, you know, there's this whole nautical theme, this whole kind of ice, stuck in the ice, and I want to create these amazing kind of ice sculptures. It's going to be interesting because I've built the sound stages with the roofs, and then I have to create a ride inside them. Now, if you're doing a dark ride, it will be basically a dark ride. But if you're doing one of these in Planet Coaster, I think the golden rule is don't create the roof, and basically you know, leave yourself a bit of opportunity to build it, and then after that you go in and put the roof on a bit later. So again, I've done it a different way because I wanted these sound stages to be backdrops, but we will come to those. I am just skipping around here. You'll see that I'm just showing bits and pieces. Like I said, this episode is pretty much a gap sort of episode where I'm creating a few different things. So the administrative building with the Arabian kind of theme to it. Yeah, then we got this flat ride with a slight Chinese feel to it. The Far East, and again, this adds with the British colonialism, I guess, and the idea of empire and the idea of exploration. These are all themes that are in this first third of the park. So this is trying to tie the first, you know, this first section of the park all together. Yeah, we'll certainly see about that. And you'll see there's some bamboo going in there. You'll see my red sort of lanterns, and we go absolutely crazy with the bamboo here. So yeah, this is going to be sort of how it is. But what else is there? Oh yes, so the coaster that we do want to add in, so the coaster that we want to wrap around. So the funny thing is, I've got ideas to put a coaster in. Now, I want a coaster. I also want a transport ride to be placed into the park soon, because I'm going to want a station around this main home base. So I'm going to have to think about where I want that, because as you know, I'm always trying to think of leaving space, because we'll need to put transport links in and other things, and you need to have space left over. But we are soon fast running out of space here. Now, I was thinking about the people mover solution, because I don't know if I want to run a steam train, because I did that in the Christmas series. I did that in the first series of the studios that I did a couple of years ago. I've also, I think it was Sunset Studios. So we've done that. There was a monorail in that series as well, and I think the monorail's a bit boring. So I will have a look. I think the People Mover could be a good solution, although this is quite a sort of historical looking area, and maybe the steam train will work. So I'll see about it. I'm just not sure. If you have a preference or a suggestion, again, leave that in the comments, and that'd be great. You might see here there's quite a bit of effort put into the to this kind of flat ride, because it's in such a showy position. I really wanted it to be really themed up. So the ride is themed, the ride is built on, and you know, not a very specific theme, definitely not a vanilla theme from the game, but all of the ride queues and exits are really individually built up. I also discovered a nice little building tip for sort of, yeah, for this. If you're building on a grid just like this, and these two pieces have to come off and they were at 90 degrees and the path isn't at 90 degrees, then you put the piece down and then you separate it from the blueprint, and it becomes a secondary building, or sorry, not separate from blueprint, separate from building. And this allows you to just put them all together. Now if you ever go to move all of this, you'll have awful trouble, because they're individual buildings, these individual pieces. But if you know that's going to be there, this is a really good way of getting some of these you know, if you're building on a grid, just things to be able to break away from the grid immediately. It's just something it's been there forever. It's just something that I discovered, and I thought, wow, this is a bit of a game changer for me, because it kind of, you know, it just means that if you get stuck on this kind of grid stuff, you can really go about keeping things like, look at that, these things here which shouldn't be allowed with any sort of grids, but because there's like 9 different little buildings in that section, you can go ahead and do it. And it's very easy to do. You just place it on the grid, then separate it with one of those little tools on the widget. Adding in the lamps, and that's all cool. These lamps have a red base to them. I altered the light. We'll talk about lighting throughout the whole park soon. I'm going to put path lighting and a whole lot of path extras. I actually want to do a live section as part of this episode. However, I don't think we have time. I think this episode is about 42 minutes, but we will probably, by the time we get there, we'll probably end up just doing 2 or 3 minutes of showing around the park and how things are. The very next episode, we'll go ahead and put in we'll go ahead and start putting in the Terror and the nautical sides to that. And if we're there, we might even start off with that coaster. So I think now what I'll do is let you enjoy the background music and the rest of this speed build. Directly after we finish this flat ride section, what we'll do is we'll move straight into, I believe, it'll be making up our very first, well, I've started to make a couple of fountains actually, and we'll put a few fountains in there, but then before that, just after that, we then go ahead and begin our sound stages. So please enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll see you in the live play section towards the end. Okay guys, so welcome back now. We are back to the end of the episode. We're going to do a walkthrough of the park starting here in the car park. Just flying down to a kind of a ground level, and this is the sort of car park area. I think this all looks a bit unofficial, doesn't it? But I guess the idea is I wanted the guests to feel like they were walking through sort of an actual through the actual walkthrough of the lot. So we'll have to fix this up. Oh, we've got some pieces of some stuff there. We'll have to fix all this up because we want the guests to do a bit of a nice walkthrough. But when they come through this building, and this is where the entrance is that they come out of that church, and so I'll certainly fix all that up. Got this wall here as a bit of a separation. That was all sort of episode 1, sort of rejigged in episode 2, and as you walk through you can see across to the Isle of Dogs, and this will be very, very well built up. And it's already, we can see what we created this episode. We can see the sound stages through there. So let's go through this particular one here. I'm just going to zip through the actual building and then come through here, and we're into the entrance plaza. There's our brand new buildings we created this episode. A nice big water tower for the moment. I went the wrong way, didn't I? Always get a tendency to zoom back. Now, so the tarmac is very on purpose. That staircase is quite imposing. The tarmac is quite on purpose. It needs softening, so I think some more garden beds, some seats, some little planter boxes. Those will all be put in between episodes as well. And yeah, we can just kind of see along here. This is where we're getting to. Here is the ride that we put in. You've got an entrance and an exit. A bit of signage required. It's a Hyperion, I believe. No, Helion. Helion is the name of that particular ride, and off it runs in a testing mode there as well. Some more planting to go in here. Nothing special, but just some more planting. I might just jump out of that camera mode. Woo, there we go. And we can just see over here. Here's our lovely 3 sound stages. So this whole area here is going to be car parking for buses and bumping in and out equipment. I'm going to put some more fences around here. I think I'll stop the car park around here and have it running straight across, but I want the coaster that we put in here. I think I'm going to have the coaster around here, and it's going to be an out and back coaster. So it's going to come through here, it's going to come around, it's going to have some of the foot of the coaster in this section, and it's going to go out to here and then come back as well. So not a wooden coaster, a very silent sort of 4-dimensional kind of coaster in the next episode, but this is where we'll be creating it. And of course, this is the area that will be a quayside, some boats in here, and this will be the ride, the Terror. So and the Terror will be inside these buildings as well. These buildings are also they're shells. We've got 2 of the actual standard size, the blueprint is, and then the larger size as well. We also will have support buildings coming off them. So once they're there, they'll be there. They won't be moved, and we'll build some little support buildings off them. So they won't look so boxy on their own, like they've just been built like that. They will have many support buildings around them, so I might end up spacing them out as well. So next episode, we should have this all fenced off, some planting around, some roads in, and the guests will have a path that they can traverse, and we can start talking about our brand new coaster. And then this section of the park, the first third, this nautical section of the park, will almost be complete. Guys, I'm going to leave the episode here. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. This has been episode 4 of Thames Valley Studios. Please leave your comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Stitch Up and check out all my other content, including Voxel Tycoon, Factorio, Dyson Sphere Program, all these other brilliant games that we're playing. And I'll see you in the very next episode of Thames Valley Studios. Cheers.